This is Synopsis, a series of conversations in the framework of Appassionato Institute. With us today is Agustín Castellón Molina. Agustín, welcome, and please introduce yourself briefly.
Hello, Neža. Hello, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity, for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. So I'm from Chile. I studied in Chile music pedagogy, but I was always interested in composition, in creation in general. So at the beginning, I started to study piano when I was 12, more or less. Then I started to improvise, to compose by ear, and to play just by ear, not very intuitively. So I didn't formalize my studies of music theory until I studied music pedagogy in Concepcion, because in my city there was no opportunity to study music in the university. This is why I didn't study composition in Chile. I ended my studies of music pedagogy when I was 24, and then I moved directly to Italy to formalize finally my studies of composition when I was 25. And now then I did my postgraduate studies in Leipzig. I finished last week finally, and
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm here. Thanks Institute Appassionato for the invitation.
Of course. May I ask, since you just brought it to that, what was your thesis?
Oh, nice question. I still don't write the thesis, will be for the next semester. I just did the concert.
Did the concert, but that's already for composition studies, right?
In what I'm doing in Leipzig? Yeah, composition.
So it was only performances of your compositions.
Yes, there were performances. So I present only one live piece for soprano and electronics, and then I showed some pieces that I already composed for orchestra. I cannot bring a whole orchestra for the hall. And also I presented another piece that was commissioned in Salzburg last week. So I had the concert in Salzburg, and then on Friday my final concert. So I show also this piece. Yeah.
So you said you started with learning on which instrument were you? What is your primary instrument?
I studied piano in Chile and in Italy. Yeah.
Piano. So you started learning piano by ear, as I understand.
Yes.
And what brought you to do that in the first place?
I think it affects me to have the physical relation with the instrument, to feel, to listen the sound at the same time that I feeling with my fingers, the keys. And this is something that then I miss a little bit during my compositional studies, because we don't have to compose with the instruments. If I'm composing for a big ensemble orchestra, I cannot play all of the instruments, or I cannot play contrabass, for example. So we need to, there is kind of way of thinking that we need to work very abstractly on the paper and then imagine everything here, like making hypotheses, and then you don't know the piece until you hear the piece. So this is the thing. But studying piano gave me this kind of sensuality, this kind of having direct connection of the sound with playing. So I feel connected with my intuition, my sonic intuition, let's say. So summarizing, it's like I have a kind of ability to listen very well the sounds that I am writing. So I think this brings me the studies of piano, and starting to play piano intuitively, improvising, thinking that knowing the instrument, not from a formalized way, from lessons, just like a game, playing the instruments and having fun and discover sounds, mixing different sounds. Yeah, discover things. Yeah, as a kid.
Since the main subject of this conversation is compositional practice, do you consider that as a part of your compositional practice then, or you were already talking about a certain distinction between what is a part of composition and what it is not? How do you conceive of this?
So I was talking about the practice, I think. Um, so when I choose the pitch material, I play in the piano the things, and then I organize intuitively what has more tension, which part of the composition needs more tension, for example. Then I choose this because I played it, so I can recognize only by ear. So I think this is something that stays on me from the beginning when I start to play piano. To organize intuitively what is more tension or what is a less tension, what is kind of release, one is kind of building something, is trying in the piano. So I use this in my practice. Not always, I have to say. Sometimes I am very, very abstract and I even don't play the instrument. But this kind of thing stayed. Yeah.
And when you mention tension, how important is it seems to be one of the first things you mention in connection to your composition practice.
Wow, tension. For me, if I have to use traditional terms, I would say it's like the dominant. It has a tension, maybe dominant with the minor seventh, and then it needs a release because the tritone opens, and then we have a minor or major chord, for example. So I have this kind of traditional thinking. I have the dominant, the tension, and then maybe I need more tension. Then maybe there is no release. It's only building tension, and then the piece ends of a maximum level of tension, for example. So I think, yeah, I think a lot of this release and tension in not only in the pitch parameter, um, sorry, but also in the timbre, the sound quality, and also in the texture. As I said, work very intuitively, but sometimes some kind of timbre gives me the sensation of tension. I write, for example, in a table, I need a sound that is rough, sharp, very, very low, and also with a little bit of harmonics. And this is for me something that brings the idea of tension. Then what do I do with this? Do I need to transform it into another thing? Should I mix overlapping of this tension with a certain periodicity, or should I release this tension, for example? So yeah, I think they are like, I make like points of tension, of climaxes also in my structures in the process of composition, and then it's like, what do I do with this? It's like when you are like, you have a Bach choral and then you have the fermata. You have, okay, this is the fifth grade. How do I arrive to the fifth grade? Maybe 4/5 or 1/5 or etc. Yeah,
I say,
something.
yeah, I say it's interesting because also when listening to your music, I think uh, tension can be felt very present in it.
Uh,
Do you ever in your composition and in your compositional practice consider what something will sound as to the people that hear it, or how do you conceive of the final sound, outcome, the music that comes out of it?
So I didn't understand very well your question.
Yeah, just when you do you ever consider reception of your
Ah,
compositions?
yes. So lately, yes. Let's say, I don't know, since 1 year or 2 years. Before, I was not thinking so much about it. I was like, I want to compose what I want, and then who listen, I don't care. This is how they perceive the music, and I cannot control that. But actually, now I reconsider this, and especially to people who has not experience listening new music. For example, if I bring this to a place where there is no music scene, how people will perceive that? And I think that they are common things in everybody, things that brings tension and things that brings kind of relaxation. Or yeah, so now I try to simplify sometimes the things in the sense that, for example, before I tried to make a counterpoint of very complex things, counterpoint of elements that they are already complex inside, and then they are existing at the same time and interacting between them. Now I try to, if I have one element, I try to make a zoom inside of the element and really try to like express or manifest what is that, with no other things, very clear. So this is how, in my perspective, my humble experience, I try to be empathic with who listen. Um, yeah, but this is complex. It's
Yeah,
complex.
because there's many ways of general discourse about that.
Yeah.
And what I observe also from these conversations is sometimes composers, often there's this decision that the composition has, I can, let's say, control this composition up to this point, and after that it's open. And
Yes. Yes.
but then there's also, especially, I mean, when you speak to people that listen, and maybe people who go often or less often to concerts, there's always this out take out take out what they take from the concert is so often
I don't remember anything.
no, but it's many times you can see the response that someone thought it was, it was calming, or that there's very simple descriptor for how they received the music. Let's
Yeah.
say this song, even though I'm not saying that anyone's listening is simple, or anyone's conception of sound is simple, and in the end, anyway, it's still the many times can be just undescribable, and the experience, and we cannot put it into words.
Yeah.
But when this is done, when it is put into words, there's often something that we all can understand or relate to when we're told. Let's say that someone was very relaxed, or someone almost fell asleep, or someone was really excited by something. And to me, as a composer, it makes me think, do I really completely, because I also had that sort of a standpoint, like this is where I control where composition goes to, and after that. But then, yeah, can I really disregard that whole area if in the end everyone who's not a composer or a performer will will find a way to make sense of that or not make sense of that in also in very simple words. So perhaps it's also something I myself don't have really explored yet, but I'm curious. It's that part that I'm interested. Do you ever consider what someone who is not of knowledge like you have, how they will receive your?
Yes, yes, I understand your question, and this is what I try to say, that I try to simplify my things because this is what I wanted to say, so it's very clear, not other thing disturbing this. I don't want analytical thinking that only a composer would understand. For example, this is the series for the decaphonic series, for example, just to say something. It's try maybe not to simplify. It's like to clean the thing, clean the composition, or to shape more the things. And I do this because I believe that music should be as open as possible and open to everybody, of course. So and everybody has, we all human beings have in common emotions. We all are, yeah, we share these things. So I try to connect these things, emotion of human being and this specific thing in the composition transmits something or not. Like it's not that I myself wanted to express a specific emotion. For example, I was angry in this moment, then I wrote something very angry, and then I want these people to listen my angriness. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's to have my initial point of course is mine, is I control this. But then when I want to manifest something in my score, should be clear. I mean, it's about clearness. Clearness. I don't know how to pronounce. Clarity. Thanks. But then at the end, also I can never control, because how you listen depends of your cultural background, where you grow up, in which historical period you were born. So it's very, very different. A person who is living in the forest and have never listened to contemporary music will listen very different as a person who is studying in Europe since 30 years. I don't know. So this I cannot control. But what I can control is if my composition is clear enough of what I wanted really honestly to write.
Yeah, and perhaps this brings to a question to a really big question, which is like, what is your mission in music and in composition? Tied to, perhaps you can tie it from where we are now to this question. What is it that perhaps in your whole life you want to achieve in music and through composition?
It's very difficult. I don't know if there is a mission. When I was like an adolescent, my aim was who listen my music needs to have a goosebumps. So when somebody had this, I felt realized, oh nice, my music is very expressive. But since I cannot have control on that, and also it's something that like I don't want to control actually. I think the musical experience, the hearing experience should be really as free as possible. and yeah, there is no mission. I mean, I want to write music and um, of course listen my music, but besides that, I don't have a huge mission. My mission, I think, is write music.
But I mean,
Yeah, if I
sorry,
have,
I assumed, but anyway, that's already
yeah, I think my mission is if I have creative ideas is to complete them, like a mission.
And
But maybe I wish that the
yeah,
music will be really um, will expand into the world, and also people who has no experience can have new ideas or new inspirations or new thoughts through listening the music. Maybe it's not me who has to do this. Maybe all of the music, all of the people who does music, and maybe not even contemporary music. I mean, yeah, I think it's about sensibilize people, sensibilize the world. This I can say is like kind of mission, but I don't know if my mission
through
is
music.
through maybe to art in general. Sensibilize and open new doors, windows to the people, yeah, to everyone. To the people sounds like I'm separated. No, I'm the people also.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, open new windows of thinking, of also sensually, and also philosophically or creatively in every sense. I think this is kind of mission of the art, but I want maybe to be part of this just creating music, but it's only my part of working on that.
Yeah. And what do you mean when you say sensibilize?
Sensibilize, maybe my English is wrong.
Uh,
Search to make more sensitive, to go deep in the sense.
yeah.
Uh, in Spanish is sensibilizar. Uh, raise awareness, sensitize, to be aware about yourself, about the environment. Yeah.
About the sound, you were mentioning philosophy. Do you
Of
see
course.
that process happening through art? Uh, I I know. I think this is the opportunity, to dive into things that seem, uh, especially in a closed or semi-closed circle of uh, fellow musicians and composers. Sometimes I guess I see things being, self-evident, but perhaps to someone that listens, it's not self-evident. So I'm curious. I will be asking like that. Uh, what do you therefore see art as, being an opportunity to do that? Merely listening, merely looking at, thinking about art. And now we're talking about arts in general, of course. And let's say, then specifically on your music, uh, can you just say a couple more words about this? Just if you had to clarify it for anyone, how do you see it?
So I see that through art, or I can talk better about music. Or yeah, let's talk about in general. Um, then, when you experience deeply a work of art, I think there can be some change, because if you connect, there is an exchange. So you receive something, and you are open to receive this thing. It can be a thought of, I don't know, whatever, awareness, environment, sharing with others. empathetic, can develop the empathy also, but not only. Maybe you can also develop in, for example, playing music together in an ensemble. Also is being sensitive to the other, playing at the same time. When you have a phrase, you have to play at the same time and you look at each other. So it's also being sensitive. It's even these things, for example. And then if you go to a concert and then the music is very, very special, for example, it's a work of art, and this, you have never heard something about that. And then you think about that and make you think, make you feel something that you never experienced before. This is what I mean. And then you can reflect about that, why I'm feeling like that. What is that? What speaks to me? And then maybe I can talk with a friend about these things, for example. For example, if I listen to music which is very sensual, for example, and touch me, but I have never had this experience in music, then I reflect about that. What is the sensuality for me? Or then there is a music very, very extremely dark, and then I have slightly a feeling of fear, for example. I can reflect what is fear for me, what are my fears in general, and then art helps you to know more you, and then to connect more with people because we share the emotions with the others. This is at least why how I think. I don't know if it's very clear or not.
No, it's more and more. And let's say from this perspective, if you imagined yourself not being you, but someone completely else, and coming to listen to your piece.
My piece.
Yes, if
Oh.
if you imagine that, could you imagine what would it be that, if I understand you correct, you're talking about the music providing with a possibility to expand, widen your experience as a human being, to experience something new. If you were in that role, coming to listen to your own music, so you were not you, what do you think you would like? Let's say if there were two things, what do you think you would find there?
If I want to find something, I have to be open to this. So I will be open.
Let's say you are. Let's say you are.
Okay. Oh, this is like a cycle.
Let's define the exact piece which you would hear. Let's say you would hear. A través.
A través.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, very difficult because I know every second of
I know. It's
nice exercise. What the fuck is that?
let's say you heard it and then you went alone somewhere and you would think of it. What, like,
Oh,
there were two things. What would you think of? What would you think? In what way you would, receive that work?
I think about what I will receive. I think, okay, I'm not me.
This is an experiment,
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. And I will not, I don't know this piece. So first, the title is, and I am Chilean or not?
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, okay. Because if I know Spanish, I will
You
immediately.
translate the title if necessary.
Ah, I don't know the title. Okay. I think I will listen kind of complex textures and also maybe impressionistic things, like maybe waves of the sea. Like maybe this is the sea. He wanted to represent the waves of the sea.
No, now you're listening like a composer. Now you're listening like
Who is somebody?
studied
No,
music.
it's not composer.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
okay. Um, maybe immersive sounds. Immersive sounds. This piece is captivating and a little bit spooky. This spooky is correct? This adjective?
A little bit scary.
Yeah, scary, yeah, maybe scary a little bit.
Scary. It's not the same as spooky. Spooky is more like, I guess, cartoon scary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, more scary.
I'm also not a native English speaker, so okay. So somewhere in that, yeah.
Yeah, I will just being in the surface in the first instance, and then my wish is that in this context, I will me as a person who is not me, that I will receive something that touch me. So, for example, oniric things make me think or be connected more about my dreams, for example. And if I think about my dreams, means that I will be more connected to my unconscious. What means the dreams, for example? Things that I dream. I woke up in the morning and then I write my dream. What means that, for example? And always is a message. You cannot avoid that. Even though it's something very ridiculous, means always something that you are scared or you are worried about something, or you are very excited about something that will happen tomorrow. So yeah, if I will be something really, really open, I think I will receive that. This is my wish as a Agustín Castellón.
Yeah, great. Well, I think this is always so interesting to take a look.
What,
Yeah.
Neža, what do you think about this piece? If I can ask you, the interviewer,
Well,
if you remember.
as Neža who went and listened to the piece,
Yes.
I could recognize that it's about these huge sound masses, and where you just linger in those. I could feel lots of tension there, and then so let's say if I would say two things that I could hear, quite. I mean, and now I'm speaking more not listening analytically or music theory, not at all, nothing like that. Just a sense of seriousness
Seriousness.
and
Interesting.
also some. I mean, I don't know how to put this, but I could hear some Chile inside of the music.
For example?
I don't remember. It was a pattern that I've observed in a couple of. I don't know what this pattern consists of. I just know that I thought to myself, I hear this now in the third composition by a Chilean composer. So, I need to go back to realize what it was.
Interesting. You should tell me and then I should analyze this and elaborate this.
Yeah, and maybe it was my imagination. So, but I think I heard something there.
So,
Yeah, and big sound masses into which the one thing you can do is to completely let go inside of those, and yeah, to use the widely used term immerse inside.
yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting, also very subjective.
Of course, yeah.
Hmm.
Which again opens a question: how do we as composers listen? What do you always listen as, you know? I'll say I ask that in the framework of us speaking in compositional practice.
Mm.
Since, at least for me, listening and listening practice does, at least in part, correspond with compositional practice. And I guess this brings us back and also forward to the question of, yeah, how can you listen? What are all the ways of listening, and what are all the ways of hearing also? That's
Yeah,
before
yeah.
you. It's interesting. You started speaking as someone who listens very technically, very with harmony, with music history in mind, in the sense that you're considering, you have your musical genre or styles as defined by musicologists in mind. Do
Mhm.
you consciously train your listening as a composer?
Mm, I think yes, during my studies, yes. But this developed on only my analytical listening to recognize when something is repeating, for example, and then I reckon, this is a rondo, for example, or also in contemporary music. This element is repeating, but now it's transformed, and now it's in dialogue with the other thing, and then the new thing is transforming, and then the two uh, merge. Yeah. So I think in this sense, but when I try to listen to music, I try, it's impossible, I think, but I try to not analyze, and I try that being affected to the sounds. I try to be as vulnerable as possible. So the sounds will affect me, and I try to feel like emotionally the the sound, and not recognizing and analyzing. Yeah, I think it's a more rich experience for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, I personally see both of those valid options for listening, and as composers, as a composer, and for myself, I do want to create that skill set of having different ways of listening available.
Mm.
If I want, I can, you know, discern the harmonic progression, and if not, I can also just sit back and, as you said, you know, open up. As in the end,
Or on or off.
I don't know if it's possible,
Composer, no, not. I think.
but anyway, that, yeah, sorry.
No, no, I was just saying that maybe I think it's possible. I mean, yeah, only this. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Well, anyway, perhaps the notion of impossibility itself is
Yeah.
something to consider, especially when composing.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah. And also the act of trying to listen, or forcing yourself to try to listen what you are writing. This is also another kind of listening, like inner listening. And this also, I think, is connected in the way how you listen. Because if you know the piece of music before, the score, not the sounds, the score, then you listen. This is this is the other thing. But it's in the analytical level.
well, recently I began seriously inquiring into different kinds of hearing. And it was curious when you said that only when you were studying that you were training your listening consciously, because that's what I wanted to say. You said already at the beginning that you try to hear everything in your mind, that you write a lot you compose a lot in a way where you
I said this. Oh,
um
you agree with me.
sorry, please correct me if I'm
Continue. Sorry. You
no,
can.
but you were mentioning the abstraction of composing because you can only hear it once it's performed,
Yeah.
and that you can until then, and now correct me if I'm wrong, only imagine how it will sound.
Yeah. Exactly. It's kind of
Yeah.
everything that I compose a piece is a hypothesis. Maybe this thing will work. Maybe the super ball in the bass drum with the piccolo and the high register will merge in only one element and can be very nice that I like. But it's only an hypothesis. I don't know how it works and how the frequencies will merge until I listen. In the real, I receive the sonic waves here. So
True,
until that moment,
but you know, sometimes, I mean, in the on the other hand, you can also hear certain things in your mind alone.
yes, yes, the things that I have experience on, I would say.
Yeah.
And I can also have I think composers also or creative or people who are working in the creative field can also transform the thing on the mind while they are doing things, transform and then just complete the piece with this kind of elaboration, mental creative elaborations. And then this is how you compose the piece actually. You imagine everything.
Do you think you hear something in advance before it was?
I have like a clouds. It's very like foggy things. Then I catch things, I try to transform. And then during the process of composition, I shape the things. So I listen things like here, or I imagine, let's say I imagine things, but it's not like the same sensation of listening a music in a concert hall. It's another kind of listening.
Yeah, because usually there will be silence around you.
Yeah, exactly. This is the reality. The concrete reality is silence. Yeah,
But then again, I mean, I really understand what you say, but especially what I've already experienced before.
mhm.
Like everyone can probably relate to hearing a catchy tune that they heard for many, 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 many times, probably, that you cannot get out of your head, for example.
Oh, like tinnitus.
That's another level of a tune, tinnitus, but I was talking about a tune, a melody.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, Mama, ooh. You can
Mm.
hear that even when it's silence. I'm
Yeah.
talking about that possibility. And now, if we talk about the impossibility, well, is it possible you hear something as vivid, as clear as you can hear Freddie Mercury, but that's actually never been realized? That's actually a part of a new composition you're writing. Do you think
Mm.
that's possible?
I think yes. I think yes.
Yeah.
You can listen and then you can manipulate this in your head. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that. Yeah.
But then again, that brings to a different question, which is if it's possible, how original is it?
Ah,
I'm thinking out loud. Don't take it too seriously. Just like, you know, compositional practice. Is
yeah.
that possible?
Yeah. I think that I think that human beings have the possibility to manipulate the thing that they already know. So you need to have experience of this before. So I have this glass of water. I don't know how it feels until I touch this texture, these glassy things. Then I can imagine and I can like grasp this sensation, but it's not in reality. But I know already. So it's like you can imagine the taste of yogurt, and then you can already like almost taste, but it's not in the reality. You imagine, but it's a very clear imagination. So I think when you already have the experience of listening something or experiencing something, then I think this is not original. But then if you manipulate this and you elaborate from the basis that you have, then it becomes original. Because you are who is working on that. You are who is manipulating and elaborating these things that come from your previous experience. But I think without previous experience, it's very, very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you state it like that, perhaps on top of let's say if we took that as objective, as a premise, as something that exists de facto, perhaps that could explain how, I mean, what would you say? Perhaps I can first ask you before I put out the idea. What do you think does it mean to create, compose music today? Is there a connection to the past? Is there a connection to history of music?
I think that is not possible to be unconnected. We are the consequence of the history.
We are
the consequence.
Consequence.
Or do you mean like the classical forms, like sonata, rondo, symphony, movements? Or what do you
No, more. I was speaking more broadly.
Yeah, I think, as I said, it's not possible to. I mean, we are the consequence, as I said. I cannot imagine another way. Or what do you mean?
Yeah, because that was also my thought, as you said, that always you elaborate, you expand on something that you already experienced, and that then it's possible to hear it already in advance.
I think that for me, it's a very beautiful process. So I see that through the history, creators were having experience with the limitations, because every area is limited, also us. And then from this limitation, they were elaborating and creating new things. So we have a new basis. And in every area, we have different bases, because from here to here until here, these elaborated things were already elaborated again from the new era. I don't know. And now in this moment, I mean, everything is different since, I don't know, 50 years ago, or 500 or 1,000 years ago. The cities, the society, the art. So I think we build through the elaborated experience. Maybe in 500 years, we will have, so now it's like multimedia, and with electronics, with dance, like interdisciplinary art. This is already will become our basis, I think. And then maybe in 500 years will be something completely new from this basis. So it's like we are walking with a bag, very beautiful bag, with all of the past, elaborated past, and we are catching the most important things. And now in the future, we will have I don't know, bioecologic, digital music, I don't know, music with the plants, I don't know, and then in 1,000 years, music inter planets, I don't know, something like this. But it will happen only because we had the experience of the past. Without this, it's not possible. I mean, how can we imagine music if it doesn't exist the conception of music in general? We will never arrive at something new. So I think it's about consequences. Everything is a consequence of the past, and from this basis we will build kind of future.
Well,
This is,
if
I
we
don't know.
said that this elaborated is what you build on, if we said this is the foundation of a composer who composes today, let's say, all the, layers of what has, in your words, been elaborated on in the past through composition, what is your, how do you do that? Do you consciously deal with that? Do you have a concept of how you deal with that in compositional practice?
Actually, I don't think so much about that, about my that I am a consequence. Let's talk very practical. So now I have an element, like a rough element, like for example, and then it will appear again in the middle of the piece, but now very, very transformed, and then appears again at the end of the piece. So I don't think that this a theme with the variations. For example, this was the main motive, the main theme, and then I just develop. I don't think in these terms, but maybe this is, if I don't know that this exists, or if this theme and variation doesn't exist in the history of art, maybe I will not do something like this. This is what I think.
I see. Okay, so you wouldn't ever call it a variation, but you do think that there's a certain pattern that you applied that you already knew from other examples.
I would say unconsciously, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's part of the unconscious, that thema and variations. I don't know in English because thema like Beethoven, pam pam taram tam, and then there are 32 variations of this. Yeah, I think it's the same process that we do in new music. Transformations, variations with different colors.
And in your view, all of this, let's say, that what you do unconsciously, is that something you inquire into at some point, what you want to know, what you did, or is it really not a priority? And what is then a priority for you in composition practice?
What is priority? So I would say that it's not so important for me to realize that I am doing thema and variations, but it's important to know what I am doing, in the sense of like when I finish the piece, I can see very clear the sections, how I transform the things, how I developed the climax or anticlimax, etc. So for me, it's important to have clarity about the process, but I don't think more about that. It's
Yeah.
only in this stadium of, yeah.
Also, I wanted to ask you how you consider the incorporation of. I saw there was a poem at the beginning of one of your scores, partituras.
Hmm.
Why do you place the poem there? What is the intent of that poem, if there is one?
Yes.
I had especially the one in English. It reads, "An entity floats in a foggy atmosphere where silence also dwells. The entity is attacked by it 3 times, suffering strangulations." Is this for performers to read? Is this also something in program notes for everyone that listens to the composition?
It's not in program notes, but it's part of the compositional process, the compositional practice. I write the text, and this kind of synopsis of one of the form of the piece. This happened fair, blah blah. So I wrote in words to help me to have clarity about what I'm writing, like a story or a film. And it's not necessarily that the publicum read this thing to understand what it was my intention, but I place the text there for the performers, because sometimes happened to me that they didn't know what is the form or with which character they should play some specific things. So I place the text so maybe they can have some inspirations of how to play this more roughly or about the form in general. But yeah, it's more for the performers.
I
And
see.
also it has some beauty for the score, I think.
Yeah. Well, always with poetry, right? um,
I don't think it's a
difficult
poem,
to
but
say always. But yeah, so basically, sharing a part of the compositional process with performers in order to, in a phrase, get them on the same page.
yes, I think it's very important
Yeah,
for the performers to get some cues about or clues about what is the intention of the composer,
yeah,
to feel more connected.
yeah.
Just to
I,
think it's very
I
important.
mean, I think even if one doesn't entirely understand something, like sometimes more material for performers is very welcome, just
Yes.
in order to, even if on a subconscious level, and try to understand what is the intent of a composer to realize it.
Yeah, and also for the conductor. So this
Right.
person does, etc. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Mm.
Okay, since we're now, I think, arriving to the end of this conversation, I'll just ask you to answer two questions I always give to composers. Um, One, what would be your message for, let's say, a young or a very young or someone that doesn't compose yet and perhaps wishes to start composing? And the second one, what would be your message for someone that will go now and hear recordings of your compositions?
Thanks for the questions. So for the first question, as I said you, I think before, I still consider myself very young and I need so much experience. But I would suggest to somebody who is really at the beginning of the studies or want to study composition or want to compose, to be very open to explore sounds, explore instruments, have friends and talk about this. And then in maybe
Why do you
this
think it's important to talk about it?
hmm?
Why do you think it's important to
Ah,
talk about it?
because talking opens new windows, opens new, you hear things that maybe you will never think until this person say this word, and then you, this stay in your mind, and then you research in Google, and then you get a new inspiration, for example. But then in a further level, when these young students wants to have more experience, is uh, try to meet a lot of people and try to listen your music a lot. Try to your music to be performed. Maybe apply it for masterclass. Maybe be friends or talk with the department of instruments. If you have a possibility of for listening your piece every semester in your school, really try to do this and explore, push your limits, and yeah, but always with a honesty with yourself for what you are doing. Is it really yourself who is writing this, or maybe you are copying? Which copying is very nice also, you learn a lot, but should be with awareness that you are copying these styles. And yeah, be really open in the like, yeah, context of new music, but I don't know very well what is that. Yeah, and the second question was to who listen my music is maybe try to not have an analytical hearing. Try to analyze. I mean, try to listen just as open as possible. But yeah, I think I don't want to influence the listening. But
Great.
yeah, you are welcome to visit my SoundCloud, my website, and next events.
Lovely. Thank you very much for joining this conversation, Synopsis.
Thanks to you, Neža.
And yeah, thank you.